Welcome to a new series, a new chapter for the PokeFuel brand, and I couldn't be more excited. I've been doing content for years in many of my businesses, and I've never really had the opportunity to start a podcast, but it's always been something I wanted to do. So today's the day that changes and we make that happen. I don't want these podcasts to focus on the get rich quick of Pokemon. We don't want that, do we? But I want to focus these episodes on quality, long-term entrepreneurship skills and business advice that you can take and apply into not only your Pokemon business, but also life outside of Pokemon. The goal here is to make it practical for you to start your own Pokemon business and have the knowledge to do so. Whether you've already started your journey into your Pokemon business, or maybe you're a collector or investor, or someone just getting into the hobby now and you don't know where to start, this podcast will help give you the advice and the knowledge that you need in order to start accelerating your knowledge and growth into the hobby. Now, you may think that running a business is scary and is hard, but we're here to break it down for you so we can make it easy for you. This is meant to be a place where you can come and learn how you can start making a little bit of extra money in order to afford some of those dream cards that you want in your collection. I am your host, PokeFuel, and welcome to the Pokemon Profit Podcast. This is the Pokemon Profit Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the lives of regular people running their Pokemon businesses and break it down for you and show you what they're doing to make it all happen. Today, on the first episode of the Pokemon Profit Podcast, we have a very special guest, and we are kicking it off today with a banger. He is one of the most consistent, driven, and knowledgeable individuals that I know. He is an entrepreneur at heart. He loves Pokemon. He is a Pokemon investor, and he also invests in other facets of his life outside of Pokemon. He has developed many business and entrepreneurship skills throughout his life. And guys, give your hand to and welcome on the show today, PokeNav.
Yeah, so for me, I am a former financial advisor. So I graduated from university with a degree in finance, and when I got out, got into investment management and was doing that for a few years as a practicing financial advisor. And, for somebody that has a background in finance or investments, typically we like to put our feelers out. We like to see what else is out there. It's not just stocks and bonds. There's a lot of viable investments out there and alternatives. And in around 2016, I was just perusing the internet, just perusing YouTube, and started to come across some videos on Pokemon, and specifically the TCG. And back then it was Gem Mint Pokemon, Primetime Pokemon. They were opening up old Wizards of the Coast sets, and it fascinated me. I could not believe that many of these products were still around. And again, having that finance background, looking at something like this from a supply and demand standpoint, I immediately thought to myself, there can't be a whole lot of this still out there. And so the wheels started to turn, and I started to see this as a potential opportunity. And so dove into the hobby around 2016, and have gone through like the ups and the downs, have been more into it, less into it, have used it to kind of diversify into other investments. And but the main thing is just having fun along the way. It's been one of the most enjoyable businesses that I've been able to, that I've endeavored in. And it's been a fun ride. And then in earlier 2020, I finally decided to kind of spread some of that experience, some of the knowledge that I had gained throughout the years, that I thought maybe might be valuable to other people. And started on YouTube in early 2020, and have been doing it since.
I was gonna say, that tail end of your story you almost forgot about. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, it is. I still look at it, and it's crazy to me that I even took the plunge in the beginning, because I had been dwelling on it for quite some time, of considering to come on YouTube. And I had looked up to other people who, were actually doing this. And in the beginning, I've never said this before, but before I actually decided to start talking about Pokemon and providing like investment related content on that, my first idea for a YouTube channel was actually going to be around fitness. I was actually going to do
Okay.
a channel based around like preparing for college athletics. So I played football, ran track in college, and I know when I was going through that process, there wasn't a lot of information of what athletes can do to get noticed by the collegiate scene. And what they can do to kind of get their name out there. And so that was actually my first idea. And in the end, it was Pokemon that won out.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think you would do very well in the fitness world too. I mean, obviously having all the experience you've had in sports and such, I'm sure you'd be successful going that route as well. But you can't do too many things, right?
Exactly. I only have so much time, and most of that is taken up by my wife and daughter. So it's Pokemon gets the other small slice of the pie.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey guys, just want to dive in here real quick. As I was editing this video, I realized that my audio was a little bit weird. Hopefully you guys can still appreciate the content here today. And I was a little bit nervous in this first episode, so please bear with me. Later on in the episode, I get a lot more comfortable and things start to flow a bit better. But please forgive me. It's my first episode and we'll do better on the next one. But thanks so much, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Well, you know what's funny? I think I actually texted you the other day about this, but fun fact about PokeNav, that some of you may kind of think I might be a bit like, wow, dude, like, how come you didn't know that? Fun fact about him is just the other day, I found out that PokeNav is an electronic device that allows you to track Pokemon statuses. And I don't know, I kind of feel like a dummy for not knowing that, because like I'm sure if I had played like more of the Game Boy games, I would know that, but I actually didn't.
Yeah, it's and the funny thing is, I don't have any of those cards in my possession, which I feel like I feel like a sham now that I don't actually have any PokeNav cards, and that's my name.
Yeah.
But yeah, to my understanding, I think in the original games, I think the PokeNav was first featured in the Generation 3 games, so
Okay.
it must have been Ruby and Sapphire. And I think its actual initial intention was that it was a device that you could read the feelings of Pokemon. I
Oh,
don't think it
okay.
was
Yep.
actually intended for anything, like navigational in the sense of like direction or anything like that. I
Yep.
think it was actually to understand the feelings of
Interesting.
Pokemon. So
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. And when I found that, I was like, man, I just thought you'd come up with it. Like it was a great, well, like you came up with it, but like I assumed you knew what a PokeNav was when you came up with it. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Combine the Pokemon with the Navigator thing, like put them together.
Well, so
Uh,
in the beginning, like when I was actually kind of coming up with a name or what I thought would be interesting, one of my other big passions or hobbies is travel. My wife and I do a lot of traveling, and so as part of that, it's navigation. Obviously, you can see there's kind of a theme here
yeah.
with the map behind me and the posters and things like that. So I wanted something to kind of resonate with that, of kind of that navigation and, not just navigating in a directional way, but also from the standpoint of like garnering knowledge or providing education, like really being able to navigate this really in-depth world of the Pokemon TCG. Because as I said, when I first got back into it in 2016, there wasn't like any information out there in regards to grading cards, sealed product, where you could get it, what a reliable source was. And so when I decided to make the jump and actually start creating content, that's really been my goal the whole time, is to try to do to the best of my ability, try to provide people with that information and knowledge, and also be able to broaden their scope of people who can provide that knowledge to them. So not just use myself, but also utilize my platform as a beacon to other people out there who are also providing good information.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I think, you came around at a really good time. And I mean, I don't want to get too far into this because I kind of want to jump into the podcast here a little bit. But I do want to say that I think I found your channel right when you were around like 200 subscribers. And so you were very, very new still. And I remember you you making those videos of you opening packs, like going hiking. And I thought it was
Oh
just like,
yeah.
I don't know the right word for it. I thought it was different. I thought it was very different what you were doing.
That's a nice way of saying it was strange.
Well, I would, like whenever we find someone on YouTube or we find someone's content, it's like we're trying to make up our minds on like, okay, who is this person? What value are they adding? Like, you're kind of trying to build a persona or that find their personality within their content. And so it took me a little bit to, kind of understand you and understand like what you were trying to do with your content. And it's just kind of funny. I don't know how I found you that early on, but I guess I was interested in that from the very beginning. So yeah, it was, you definitely kind of tried to bring some new ideas to the Pokemon space. I mean, this was what, 9 months ago now that you started? 8 months? Close to?
It was, yeah. It's been about 8.5 months. I started in I think my first video was like early May of 2020. So
it's crazy, man. Time flies.
Crazy. It does. It does. Definitely.
Jeez,
definitely.
That's crazy.
But yeah, like you said, it was a time where, not only I think were, yourself and others trying to figure out, well, what is the nexus of what he's offering. And I was trying to figure that out for myself,
right.
Trying to provide education, but at the same time, trying to provide entertainment. And I think that's something that you learn as a content creator is along the way, you really start to focus in on what it is that you're truly good at and that what differentiates you from everyone else. And I think I'm still doing that. I still process, but I think I've kind of gotten to the point now where I know what my skill set is. I know what people enjoy from me, the content that they enjoy, and I've kind of niched that down even more, so that so that I'm providing that on a consistent basis.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. We'll be talking about a lot of these different topics here throughout the podcast. But it is true that when you start out, you're just, it's a continuous thing. You're always trying to find out exactly what you're focusing on. And I think the more videos you make, the more content you put out, the more you kind of start to figure out a little bit more about like what your audience wants, what content they like watching more. And then you kind of just build from there, So, yeah, anyways, I want to jump right into the podcast. Got some great juicy questions for you.
All right.
So guys, before we jump into it, what we want to kind of do is just kind of give you a little bit of some questions to think about and things that we want to really focus this podcast episode around in the beginning. So kind of the theme for this first podcast episode to kick things off is I'm just going to kind of look down here at some of the show notes that I have here. So really what you want you to be thinking about in this episode and questions that we're going to be kind of answering is, what can people do if they don't have the money to invest in Pokemon? How can you accelerate your progress towards having your dream collection or reaching your binder goals? That's one of the things we want to focus on. We want to also have a look at, what opportunities are out there to make money with Pokemon and what is the best for you and your circumstances, because everyone's in a different circumstance. Everyone is in a different position, have certain interests, and certain Pokemon businesses or ways that you can make money with Pokemon may not fit everyone's style, everyone's preference, right? We're going to be looking at what opportunities are more sustainable and why. Is it too late to start a Pokemon business now in 2021? What success can you expect from starting one today? And how do they compare to other businesses and investments out there? So I really wanted to start this first podcast episode off really strong with kind of bringing some new ideas to the table that I felt may have been overlooked in some other podcasts out there on YouTube and within the Pokemon industry. I wanted to provide something that is a little bit different. So we're gonna jump right into the first question for PokeNav. We're gonna hit him straight with this question.
Hit me hard.
So for you PokeNav, why did you choose to start a Pokemon YouTube channel instead of another investment and business venture? Because this is something that I know about you, and maybe the viewers will start to learn a little more about you throughout this podcast. But you have other things going on in your life that you do outside of Pokemon and your family. Why did you decide that this was going to be the time that you put into Pokemon rather than starting another business or entrepreneurial venture?
Mhm. Well, I think at the core of it was something that I was passionate about. And for me, I like to just follow things that I enjoy. Life is far too short. And I've said this on my channel before. What really gave me the impetus to pursue this in the end was that my brother was in a really horrible car accident in early 2020. And he was in a coma for 2 weeks, nearly lost his life. And that really put into perspective for me, how fickle life really is and how it's important to pursue the things that you truly want. And I had kind of fallen off the wagon with that, had put some things to the back burner. And I said to myself, you know what, this is something that I think I'll enjoy and something that I think has a lot of opportunity there. So that was what really gave me the impetus and what really pushed me over the edge. As far as an opportunity from a business standpoint, what I saw from YouTube was a platform where I could project to a wider audience. So I had been buying and selling Pokemon cards for a few years, obviously before I started on YouTube. But especially when you're a seller, it's difficult to try to build up a reputation. As you know, if you sold, or anyone out there that is currently selling on places like eBay, there's a lot that goes into it. There's, search engine optimization. If you're not ranking high enough in the search results, you're just not going to get seen and you're not going to sell product. So the YouTube avenue was really a way for me to connect with a wider audience and be able to provide education and information. And in doing so, build up a reputation that people would trust, that they would understand, okay, we get that this guy has been doing it for a little while, not nearly as long as many others, but he seems to have experience. He's providing knowledge that is rational, and he's got a background that lends to this. So I saw it as that. And then on top of that, there's a lot of, and I didn't realize the magnitude of it when I first began, but through YouTube, it provides you with multiple different avenues for actually creating a revenue stream. So, obviously once you've gotten your 1,000 subscribers and your 4,000 watch hours, you can create ad revenue, or you can get ad revenue off of your videos. If you're providing good content, you're getting consistent views, there's a revenue stream there. On top of that, you're building a reputation. So you, as a seller, you still have those same tactics, the same strategies that you have before, but now you've got a much more vast consumer base that you can appeal to. And through YouTube, it provides you with that platform. And then beyond that, you're connecting. I think one of the biggest things about YouTube, and both of us can attest to this, is that it gives you an opportunity to connect with other like-minded people, other entrepreneurs, other business people out there that can say, hey, you're doing this and this is great, but maybe look at this. I think this is also an opportunity for you. Whereas, before, had I not gone down this route and pursued YouTube, I never would have met all the people that I have. And I don't think as many of the opportunities that have presented themselves to me would have happened. I probably would have continued to maybe sell here and there on eBay, or, my main source of my main channel of selling was just in the Phoenix area. So I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and a lot of the people that I sold to were just people that lived in, the close proximity, in the either in the Phoenix area or the state of Arizona, sometimes Four Corner states. But it was very limited in its scope, and now it's really provided a much wider audience. So, like I said, I think from an opportunity standpoint, if you're considering, maybe jumping onto YouTube, it's definitely worth a try, in my opinion. It's definitely worth trying to pursue and seeing if it works for you. And as long as you're providing meaningful content, and this is another thing that I didn't mention. But as you said before, it was really a serendipitous time in which I started. So I started in May. This was soon after many of the lockdowns had happened because of the pandemic. So a lot of people were at home. They weren't going to work. They had more time on their hands. So it was a time it was a unique time because there were a lot more eyes on platforms like YouTube. And I kind of saw that too. I kind of saw the writing on the wall and was thinking to myself, man, if there was ever a perfect time, now would probably be it. And again, I didn't want to pass up on it. And I'm so thankful that I did. Like, beyond all else, the thing that I'm most thankful for is being able to connect with people like yourself, our good buddy Jules, people, different buyers and sellers out there, different collectors and investors. I've learned a lot in this process, even in this short, 8 months or however long I've been on. So it's just those social connections go so much deeper than anything I could have imagined.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I, a lot of what you were talking about with YouTube specifically, I think there is a lot to unpack there with growing a brand, really, because that's what you're doing, right? And, I come from a background where I've had a lot of experience with brands and with design and helping, other small businesses to grow online and build their online presence. And I think that there's so much that goes into like building a brand online. And I think that the more and more that you get into this and the more and more that you start building up an audience where you almost becoming like a micro influencer to these people, the more and more you start to see that there are other things that start unfolding. I mean, you've been talking recently and we're working on, getting your website up and running and, other things like, you're looking at merchandise and being able to sell products. It's like, not only are you, it's not as simple as just starting an eBay store and getting product and selling it, shipping it out. And that's what you do. But you've got to now think about your content. You've got to think about, what videos to make. You got to think about how to improve your thumbnails. You got to be figuring out how you can improve your audience retention. You got to be thinking about how you're going to get your merch designed and your website set up. Like, it adds so much complexity to the whole process. And that's really what I want to, unpack here a little bit later, is going into some of those topics, because, I think it's something that we don't really talk about in the Pokemon world. And I think that a lot of people, there's people out there that we look up to, that have grown. I mean, you'd be silly to not know who PokeRev is, who's completely blown up over the last year. And, the way he's approached content. I mean, there's things to look at there and analyze and see, well, what has he done that's been working so well? How can I apply those same things if I want to start a Pokemon business and brand, and I want to build up my reputation, like you were saying, what can we take from that and apply to almost shortcut our road to success, right? So
Exactly.
there's so much within that. I don't know if you had something there to say. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just going to corroborate that very thing, is that, it does. And this isn't to really scare anybody off of like, wow, like that just seems so overwhelming. People have to understand that this has all kind of unfolded and continues to unfold over time. So, and you can grow as big or as quickly or as slowly as you want to. If all you want to do is jump onto a platform like YouTube and just put out some videos, put out some content, you're more than welcome to do that. And there's people who are very successful in just pursuing that. But as I said, as I continued down this path, I started to see the various opportunities when they were arising. And I think if there's anything, that I would give myself credit for, is that I'm pretty good at spotting out opportunities when they arise and not letting them go by the wayside. I like to capitalize on an opportunity, when I see it. Both for the benefit of myself as well as the benefit of others. Because if I see that there's something, a void that needs to be filled, that isn't currently, as I said, it's not only going to benefit me, but it's going to benefit others as well. I mean, really the core of my channel is providing the same type of information and education that I wish I would have been able to garner when I first started. So that's what I really try to do, is I try to go back into the memory bank and go, okay, what is it that I wish I would have known in the beginning? And now that the Pokemon community is becoming more educated and they are more familiar with some of the foundational pieces, things like grading, spotting maybe fake products, all of these things that I think is important if you want to pursue this. Now it's starting to take that to the next level. And, and I'm sure we'll get into this. I'm probably getting ahead of myself.
We will get into it.
So I'll just leave it at that for now.
No, I mean, this is all great. And I love that this is the direction our conversation is already going, because, I think that there's just so much to talk about. There's just so much to talk about when it comes to this kind of topic.
So get ready, guys. This is going to be a 6-hour podcast. So
4 different parts.
Yes.
Oh man. All right. So let's kind of take a step back for a second. And we've talked a lot about, we've talked briefly about kind of building a brand, starting a YouTube channel, that kind of angle. But if we kind of take a step back for a second, and think a little bit more meta, what opportunities are out there right now to make money with Pokemon, and how do people go about finding about what is best for them, their circumstances? So let's answer that first part, right? What opportunities are even out there for people to either make a bit of a side income with Pokemon, or even have the dream of turning into a full-time income? What could they even do?
Well, the first thing that I would recommend doing before you buy a single card, and this is coming from the financial part of PokeNav. This is the financial advisor part, is you want to make sure that your personal finances and your financial foundation is strong. So if you've got, this is just coming from me, if you've got debt, if you've got credit card bills, you've got all these different things, focus on that first and foremost. Cover all of those things. Then beyond that, I think one of the best approaches to getting into this, especially if you don't have a lot of capital up front, is to create a budget for yourself for your Pokemon investment. So in the financial world, we really recommend the same thing. We look at when we sit down with a client, we look at everything. We look at their net worth. We look at, how much they make, what is their income, and then we can allocate a portion of that to their financial investments. And we understand how much they have that can go towards that. Well, realistically, Pokemon, it's the same thing here, guys. It doesn't matter what it is that you're investing in. You want to make sure that you're doing so in a prudent way. So the first thing that I would do is I would make a budget for yourself. Understand how much it is that you have available to spend. If you don't have any, then cover all of those other things first. And then create that budget by maybe reallocating some of your existing expenses. So if you understand, hey, I buy a coffee at Starbucks every single day, that's like $7 or $8. Maybe I'm just going to set that money aside. I'm going to set it into a separate account. And, by the end of the month, there's few $100s right there that you can then utilize towards that. Another good approach is maybe pick up like a part-time job, something that is guaranteed. I think the problem that we've seen with many people who have jumped into this hobby is that there's different approaches that you can take. So you can create a Pokemon card business where you're just working on margins. So basically, in order to make money, you have to keep turning product. For me, that's never really been a factor because my cash flow comes from either other investments that I have or my job or, what have you. So I'm never worried about having that underlying capital or moving product all the time in order to sustain that. So if you're in a similar situation, which, most people are, maybe look at, getting a part-time job and view that as maybe your angel investor for your Pokemon investments. So I would say that is the first thing. And a lot of people, in fact, I made a video about this early on, and a lot of people are like, this has nothing to do with Pokemon. But again, I think that just kind of lends to maybe the immaturity of the hobby as things stand of people who are entering this and maybe don't have as much of a financial background as other people who have been in here. So that's where I would start. Now, as far as opportunities, I still think that, 2021 is still a great time to do this. I really don't see a downside to it. Again, with the caveat being that you've got everything else taken care of, you don't have insurmountable debt that you're trying to crawl out of, and you're trying to use Pokemon to get out of that. As long as all of that is solid, then I would say start small. If you don't have a lot of capital, start small. Start where you can. One of the avenues that I've recommended a lot of people look at first and foremost is picking up raw cards, picking up binders of cards, or if you have cards from your childhood that have just been laying around collecting dust for all these years, get those cards graded. Get those cards graded, and maybe use that initial amount of capital that you've garnered from your side job or your reallocation of assets, and use that to get those cards graded, and then start slowly flipping those cards on the open market and building capital that way. Once you've got that base of capital built, then you can start to reinvest that into other areas. You can start to reinvest that into sealed products. You can start to invest in maybe higher end graded cards or higher end sealed products. But really it boils down to your situation and, how much you have to spend, how much you are willing to spend, and what avenue you want to take. So I'm sure we'll get much more into the weeds about this, but at a foundational level, that's what I would recommend. And often it's the thing that I never hear. I never hear this from other whether it's content creators or just people on different platforms. You've got to make sure Pokemon does not just exist in a vacuum. Okay. There's a lot of extraneous
Yes, it does, PokeNav.
factors.
It does. I promise.
Yeah. It seems to be the current zeitgeist. But as I said, I think that is just kind of the immaturity of a lot of people entering. It's getting a lot better. I truly think so. I think that a lot more people are getting educated on this. And I think a lot of people have done a more deep dive into, how markets operate because of Pokemon. Maybe they got burned in Pokemon, and so they've started to explore sort of a macro approach as to how the economics of this, how markets operate, supply and demand, all of these foundational things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that's always been something I think unique about, at least what I've seen from content creators, is something that you share that most don't. And I think I think the reason why it doesn't resonate with a lot of people is because they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. They just want to follow their emotions and just buy up as many Pokemon cards as they possibly can because it's the gold rush, right?
Oh, dude, when I can totally understand that. When I was in school, going through business school, like going through accounting classes and going through like taxation classes, I was just falling asleep. And now I love that stuff. I
Yeah.
love it because it has an application to my life. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you don't realize these things early on. They can be boring and they can be tedious, but when they truly affect you and your decisions and your finances, you start to take a lot more close notice to it and appreciate it a lot more. And I think that's what's going on right now is people are starting to look at those little details and start to look at it not quite in that vacuum anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's either a result, well, it's two things I can see. I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but it's, I think there's more people becoming more educated. And I think, and kind of the hobby is somewhat maturing. The second thing is I think people are regretting a lot of their decisions and starting to realize
Exactly.
that, hey, maybe I need to take a different approach. I can't keep
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this, So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think it's also, reining in their expectations as well. I think when
mhm,
we started to go through this huge boom throughout 2020, I think many people saw, this massive surge in prices among it seemed like every single product. It didn't matter what it was. But having, been in the markets for years now, and being happy with like an 8% return. When I got into Pokemon, I was looking for something similar. Hey, if I can get, something that's equivalent of like the S&P 500, like I'm happy with that,
right.
or, if I get into real estate and I can see, year over year appreciation, then I'm happy with that. We have a saying in the investment management world that it's not about timing the market, it's time in the market.
Mm,
And I think those are the people, same thing with Pokemon, the people that focus on time in the market will be the ones in the long term that have the most success.
hmm Yeah, no, that's wise advice. And I think that, you kind of bring us all back down to earth, I think. As much as we may kind of like twitch when you say certain things, we're like, no, you didn't just say that. But I think it's good because it kind of just it gives us like a baseline to like bring us back down to earth and be like, okay, like I really
Mhm,
need to make sure that I make good decisions with my money and, be putting it in places that actually make sense. Which,
mhm,
I think is a really great thing that makes you unique as well.
mhm,
So now we've kind of talked about this a little bit and kind of like if someone was to get started, the process in which they would go about kind of evaluating, how much money they have, you know, and then kind of a few little tips you shared there about, selling off your childhood binder or getting cards graded and, using that capital to then reinvest and, do the same thing, just kind of putting the profit back into the business over and over
mhm.
again. So what about the actual opportunities? Because I know that we had, I put out a couple of videos last week about different ways to make money with Pokemon. And a few of those ways were ways that someone might not necessarily need a capital investment in order to get started with things. Now, it did make some of those things a little bit more difficult, but there are ways that people can get started with almost nothing. For one, a YouTube channel, you don't need money to start that. You just need to be providing enough knowledge and enough value to your audience. And, it's a long-term play, but it's something you can start without necessarily having an investment. Um,
Mhm.
a couple of other things, not to mention all of them, but even having a Pokemon service. Now, this may include building up some form of reputation, which can be a little bit difficult to get started. But you can start with just your family or friends or people that you know and provide services. So a few of those services could include you could even start a grading service. I know that's a little bit out there. You could even be a middleman that helps people sell their product, right?
For sure. For sure.
You could also get involved with what other ways are there? There's a few other services you can offer. Um, you could be connecting buyers and sellers with different vintage product, for example.
You
There's
you could
this.
just be, yeah, you could also just be like a finder. You could
Yeah.
just find product for. There's a lot of people out there that just don't want to go through the process of actually finding product. So there's a lot of people that would offer finders fees just for being able to push them in the right direction. And I mean, there's no risk there. I mean, you're just literally saying, hey, here it is. Somebody says, hey, I
Yeah.
want X product. You go out, you do the research, you connect, you say, hey, you're just basically the liaison between buyer and seller.
Yep.
And people are glad to provide a finder's fee for that.
And see, that right there is what I feel is it's not really talked about a whole lot. But you think about this, right? There's essentially no risk unless the person that you're trying to find the product for decides to scam you and not
Mm-hmm.
pay you the commission fee for finding the product.
Right.
But you don't have to have the product. You have to have any capital. You have time on your side. All you need to do is build up your connections, and that can start from day one, building connections with
Mm-hmm.
people on Instagram, people on Facebook. There's so many Facebook groups of people who have product. And even going and approaching some of these people that have large collections, or even YouTubers, and saying, hey, I would love to help you find some of the products that you're looking for. What are you looking for? And have them send, if they're willing to, if they're like, hey, yeah, I'm looking for this and this, would you be willing to send even a 2-3% commission fee or finder's fee for
Mm-hmm.
finding that product for you? And, when you're talking about a, $20,000 box, you're looking at, $400 to $600 commission just off that sale, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's so many other unexplored opportunities I feel aren't really talked about yet. And I think that as Pokemon develops and matures, and it continues to grow as a franchise, which is obviously the hope, right? Is that Pokemon continues to grow and flourish, that there's these other opportunities that, you can basically become someone who can find products for others. And then if you've built up a big connection base, people will come to you and ask you if you have any products, and you can still make those finder's fees without having to maybe spend as much time going out and finding it, because you'll have all these connections already. You could have basically, okay, here's all your sellers. They're lined up. They're selling these products. You need to find buyers for them, and you have your buyers. You can just connect the buyers and the sellers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
You're
don't know, I'm
essentially
getting a bit ahead
acting
of
in a like.
myself.
No, and I've compared the Pokemon market. I've used analogies of it to the financial markets very often, and in this respect, you're essentially acting as a broker dealer. You're connecting buyers and seller,
Yeah.
and that's where I started out when I started out in finance. I got my Series 7 certification, which is essentially a broker dealer, and
Okay.
and so that's where, like you said, people can start there. There's little to no risk. There's no capital. You're just essentially, what you have at stake is your reputation. So you want to make sure that you in your asset in this case is your knowledge.
Yep.
So if you are doing a good job of connecting these people with viable and legitimate products, then you're going to build up that notoriety. You're going to build up that community of people that come back to you. So no, that's a really good point. And that is actually something that I haven't touched on myself. I've kind of gone down more of the building of capital in order to acquire products. But you're absolutely right. Our good friend Jules and I, on our podcast that we have, we had a middleman on there as well, he started out as a content creator and was just doing basically pack openings, and wanted to kind of broaden his scope, and became a middleman initially with PSA, and then with Beckett, and now finally with CGC. And he goes through hundreds and hundreds of cards every single month. So yeah, it's a good opportunity. And again, that's why I think that something like YouTube, again, it opens up so many different avenues,
Yep.
because he started out as a content creator. He built a following as a content creator. People trusted him, they like him. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to add this to my repertoire. And people were glad to go ahead and support him by sending him their cards to have graded. So I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, no, it's, there's, I mean, I don't know how much, he makes per month doing that, but I can imagine that, a lot of these things, I mean, you think about it, right? Like, if you're spending all of your time doing this stuff and you've built up enough momentum, like, you've got to be pushing, like, high 5 figures at least a month, right? Doing this stuff for other people. I mean, if you got a big enough customer base, I mean, it's a very, very reliable business if
Yeah.
people are still sending in cards, and you build up your reputation. And
Mm-hmm.
yep, go ahead.
I don't mean to cut you off. I don't want to lose this thought, but I regret the fact that I did not inquire more with him. And some people aren't as comfortable divulging their how much they're earning through certain things.
Yeah.
But I wish I would have dove into it a little bit more to kind of get an inkling as to what that might be, because I don't think there's enough of them out there. I don't think that there's enough. There could be a plethora of middleman or middle ladies. Got to be politically correct, but anybody that could potentially do this as their side hustle, as long as they're willing to handle that massive inventory and they're comfortable with that, then I think it's a good opportunity.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I just think that more of this is going to become even more important as we go forward. And I think that if people, like, there are things out there that you can do within Pokemon that probably no one has ever done before. There's things that you could think about, and because I come from a background where, one of my favorite business models that I've been involved with multiple times throughout the last 5 years is running agencies. And I've run multiple agencies. And what I've noticed is that with an agency, you don't have to have any startup capital to start an agency. There may be a few software costs and things like that. But when you're starting out as an agency, whether it's providing like a graphic design service or it's providing like a video production service, which is what I did was 2 years ago. I guess we kind of stopped doing it right before COVID hit, is you don't really need any startup capital and you can do all the work on your own until you build up a client base. Once you bring on some more clients, then you can hire people to do things for you, whether it's having an admin, whether it's having someone who's doing all the shipping for you, right? And so, like, it's something that you can start with no capital other than just learning and having the knowledge and the know-how to do it, and then just putting in some time reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm starting this new business where I'm wanting to be a middleman. I've got a subscription to so-and-so grading service. I'd love to have you as one of my first customers, or I'm trying to build up my testimonials. I won't charge a fee, right? You don't charge them any money for it, or it's cheap, or whatever, however you can do to negotiate that. But, because I got a lot of thoughts running through my head. Let me finish that thought first and build up some sort of testimonial base where you have people who say, they got their cards back. Maybe you look out for people who are looking to express their cards so that you can get testimonials a lot quicker and get your business moving a lot faster, right? So you express those cards. You say, hey, hope you enjoyed your service. You can probably do a little extra thing for, maybe you could write like a handwritten note or something, little things in the shipping process, make sure the cards are shipped properly and really safe, and say, hey, I'm really glad that, I'm really glad that you got your cards. Would you mind writing a small testimonial, even filming a short 30-second clip of just sharing your experience with me, right? This is what we did all the time. Whenever we'd start an agency, this is what you would do. You would go out and you provide either free work or really cheap work, or that's generally how we would go about it. Get a testimonial, a video testimonial, and then we'd use those testimonials to close additional clients. So as part of showing your reputation, you then take those to new people and say, hey, these are 3 of my customers that have used me as a middleman with their products. This is their experience. I'd love for the opportunity to grade your cards as well. And maybe this is someone that you found in a Facebook group that's saying, hey, I'm wanting to find a middleman to send my cards in for grading. You can go and search in these Facebook groups and type in like any keywords you want to try and find someone who's looking for something, and then pinpoint that person and reach out to them directly. So there's so many things that I see that people can do without having to put up any money in Pokemon first that can build their base and start building up some capital for them to move into other facets of Pokemon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of it just boils down to making sure that you have the knowledge before you pursue that particular endeavor. Because as I said, I think that's your main asset there. Going back to, what I was talking about earlier, you're essentially putting the onus entirely on yourself. So you're putting the onus to build the capital. You're essentially doing that all on your own, and you're putting in the sweat equity, we'll call it. Whereas in this endeavor, not to say that you're not putting in the elbow grease as well, but you have to make sure that the knowledge is there. With me, it was kind of, when I first started, it was like learning as I was going. So I was learning things. I'd make a mistake. I would learn from that mistake and realize not to make it next time. But if you're going down this route, I would say there's probably less room for error, because as soon as if you get a couple negative reviews back, that could be it. Because the people that are sending you their cards, their prized possessions, just taking the middleman as an example, some of these may be tens, if maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in value, and one mistake there, one really negative review could completely dishevel your pursuit of that. So I would say, if that's something that others out there are considering, make sure that you pay your due diligence. Make sure that you're very knowledgeable in it, that you can answer questions up front. People aren't going to expect you to know everything, but they're going to expect a good service. But as you said, you can always provide these services for free. Back in the day, that's what a lot of people used to do. They would, if they wanted a job or they wanted to work with a particular company or a particular individual, they offered their services up for free. A well-known example is Warren Buffett. I can't remember the gentleman that he was tutored under, but he basically learned all of his investing strategies from this individual that he offered his basically just to be an intern with him 100% for free. Worked 40, 50, 60 hours a week for free, and he was look what became of him.
I think I actually remember that story too. It's pretty crazy, because that's providing value up front, which is open another whole can of worms here with this. But providing value first in a business is always critical, and being willing to go the extra mile, especially in the beginning, to build up some form of reputation is important. Even, knowing that that's kind of how you're initially going to start gaining some reputation in the very beginning. And then from there, you kind of have some backing behind you, so you may not have to spend as much time doing that in the future. But yeah, so I got another question here that kind of tags along with this. Let me just see here, because we may have already answered it. So we have talked about this a little bit, but how do these opportunities that we've been talking about within Pokemon, whether it's services or even having a bit of capital to start a business, how do they match up against other investment opportunities in business ventures? And do you have any real examples from your life? I know you kind of talked a little bit about how the 8% return and stuff, and how Pokemon right now seems to be a lot higher than that. But, what are your thoughts on that in terms of like this opportunity within Pokemon now and other opportunities out there, and the longevity of that actually becoming something that can be sustainable?
Hmm. I think the most important thing that I've learned in my life, and I am thankful that I pursued finance early on, because something that I learned was diversification. And I think this is a hard lesson that many have learned throughout this pandemic. We use the the term, or I guess the saying, don't have all your eggs in one basket. And those that typically have all their eggs in one basket are the ones that get hit the hardest. When the farm catches on fire, guess what? That basket is going up with it. So what I've learned is to kind of spread myself out among different asset classes, and from a portfolio construction standpoint, in the financial world, Pokemon would be considered what we call an alternative investment. We just refer to them as alternatives. This could include things like, Pokemon would be classified under like collectibles, but this could also include precious metals. You could also include gold and silver in alternatives. But it's basically, an investment outside of the traditional stocks or fixed income, otherwise known as bonds or cash. So for me, to be quite honest, Pokemon has never really encompassed more than about 10% of my overall portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that again is where the importance of diversification. There's other investments that I have. I have real estate, so I have rental properties that I collect an income off of. Those assets continue to appreciate over time. I also, have assets in the stock market, so I collect dividends off of those. And in doing so, you are in a better position to add something like Pokemon or an alternative to your overall portfolio, because if, let's say that, Pokemon, and Pokemon will have some kind of retrace, it will have some kind of slump. We'll probably experience something maybe similar to what we saw from like 2005 to about 2010, even 2015 with Pokemon. We'll see something like that. I'm sure of it. But if that does happen, there's, not only is it a smaller portion of my portfolio, but at the same time, I can balance that out with other areas. So, and I don't even remember the initial question.
we were talking about
like, on big tangents.
No, it's totally fine. We were talking about like the difference between like a business within Pokemon and comparing them to other business ventures or investments.
Yeah. So I think you should look at it in basically in a similar vein. Is don't put all of your eggs into one basket with Pokemon, or if you are, at the very least, diversify yourself within Pokemon. So don't just invest in graded cards. There's a multitude of different ways that you can diversify. So you could say, well, don't just focus on graded cards from modern sets that are full arts. That's really, really specific. That would be analogous to like saying, you know what, I'm going to put all of my life savings in, I don't know, I'm going to put all of my life savings in this startup tech company. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which if you did that, you're probably looking pretty good.
Right.
But that's just really, really risky, to do that. So again, looking at it from a macro approach, I would say if you're going to add Pokemon, make sure that it's balanced with other areas. Now, I'm not telling you, everyone out there, that you should go and invest in real estate, or you should, go put a bunch of money in the stock market or something like that. But you just want to make sure that it's balanced. And if for nothing else, maybe you've got a reserve of cash sitting there, so that if Pokemon just does not pan out for you, you've got a rainy day fund. You've got you're again, you're secure from a financial standpoint in your foundation. But beyond that, I would recommend, having a diverse portfolio. And I refer to portfolio a lot, and I think people kind of smirk at it when I'm talking about Pokemon. But it's an alternative. That's, in all actuality, Pokemon is just an alternative investment. It is an alternative to the traditional stocks or fixed income. So balance risk versus reward. But it is certainly a viable business that you can pursue. You just have to understand how much risk you're actually willing to take. Somebody that actually voiced this recently is a guy goes by Twice Baked Jake on YouTube. And he said the same thing. His Pokemon investments are actually very risky. He invests in obscure products that don't have a whole lot of data or analytics behind it, things that you don't see on the open market that often. But he's open, and he says, I'm okay with this. I'm okay because this is really just disposable income that I have that I'm putting towards these investments.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his 401k, he's got, his other investments that are preparing him for his future. This is just kind of his fun money, we'll call it. It's his disposable income. And so I think that is something that everyone has to just take into consideration at its at a core level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that, again, I don't want to iterate the same kind of points that I've been mentioning about you, but, you kind of bring us all down to earth with, keep making sure that people are making smart decisions with their money. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that I think Twice Baked Jake, he said something about saying he had 40 to 50% of his investments in Pokemon, I believe, in one of his recent videos, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or it was like down to 40 now since he bought a house or something. And I was like, whoa, that's
Mm-hmm.
like a fair amount of money.
Well, I can tell you it's probably going to go a lot further down now that he's got a home.
Yeah. Right.
And especially once he finds himself a partner, maybe starts having some kids.
Yeah, that's true.
It
when changes then.
Oh, for sure. Sure. And again, I'm going to compare this to portfolio construction in the financial world. If I had somebody that came in that was 20 years old, single, just starting out in their career, chances are I'm probably going to build them a portfolio that is very heavily weighted in stocks. And it's probably going to be, if they're comfortable with it, it might be composed a lot of value stocks that we think are perhaps undervalued by the overall market, with maybe an allocation of growth in there as well. So I bring this up because, again, everyone's situation is going to be different. Jake, prior to buying a house, he probably didn't have a whole lot of financial responsibilities, and I don't know his personal life, but he probably, if he had a significant other, maybe they were already fine on their end, didn't have kids, didn't have other things that he's planning for. If maybe he doesn't have any aspirations to acquire other asset classes, again, everybody's different. And maybe his living expenses are really low, and so he doesn't have that on his shoulders. And again, this is where, for myself, I always, when I'm looking at Pokemon, I'm always thinking back to those conversations that I had as an advisor, because every time somebody sat in front of me, it was a different circumstance, and you dealt with people from all walks of life in all different situations. And so what I try my best not to do on my channel is to give blanket statements. Now when I maybe recommend maybe top 5 products or something like that, these are kind of products in general that I think have value, maybe inherent value in them, over, maybe 3 to 5 years or even longer. But it's not to say that it's suitable, for everyone. But at the same time, for me to make a disclaimer on every single video, people would probably find that tedious and a little too much. But again, I think in the end, you just have to weigh your particular situation. You have to see what your finances are like, all these different things, and then balance risk versus reward.
Yep. No, definitely. Totally agree with you there. I want to kind of shift gears just a little bit and kind of ask you a little bit of a different question, because the last 5 years for me in business, there's I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons along the way. But there's been one thing that's been driving me throughout this whole process. And I remember back when I was actually at college, and this was before, let me think, this must have been 2015, I think. And I was going to school, I was working a part-time job, and I was thinking to myself, this can't be it. Like, this can't be it. Like, I can't see myself working this part-time job, getting my degree, and then going and working for someone else for 40 years. I just didn't see it as an option for me. The thought of that was so depressing, because I wanted to do something more. And during that time, I found a really strong desire to find something that allowed me to have the flexibility that I was looking for. One thing that's very important to me is family, and two is freedom. I don't want to have to show up to work at 9 o'clock the next day. That's just me personally. I don't like that. I like to have, I guess I've always been kind of that rebel kid, growing up. Never really didn't like listening to my parents. There's lots of things that I've learned along the way that I've had to really grow up and learn. But I've always kind of been that person who goes against the grain. I don't like following the societal norms, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is all going somewhere, I promise. So during this whole time, what really motivated me through all of the, I wanted something to work, right? I've wanted something to work for these last 5 years. And there's always been something that's driving me to do what I'm doing. And I would call that, some people call it your why or your purpose for doing something. I've always been very focused and aware of, why am I doing this? What's the deeper meaning behind what I'm doing every day? And I think that's a critical part of life in general, I think, is kind of having an idea of like why you're doing something. Because let's be honest, you don't wake up every day and you jump out of bed and you're like, yay, today I get to make another YouTube video. There's probably some days you get out of bed and you're thinking to yourself, I really don't want to do a video today.
Well, I tell you what I'm thinking is, okay, what time can I put my daughter down for a nap so that I can record a YouTube video? What time is she actually going to go to sleep so that I can sit down and actually record?
Right.
Again, that goes back to the being a dad and different priorities.
Right. So I kind of wanted to ask you then, like, let's go a little bit deep on like you, like, why do you get up every day? And I know there's lots of things you spend your time, but why do you get up every day and spend time like on this Pokemon business? Like what is it? And I know you shared your story in the very beginning about why you started, but what keeps you going like every day to do this? What motivates you when you don't feel like doing something that day?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you talked about purpose. I'm kind of a scholar at heart too, and one of the things that I like to do is I like to study like ancient cultures and ancient religions, and in Hinduism they call it dharma. Dharma is
Yep.
basically your life's purpose. And so for me, like that is my guiding light, I guess you could say, is I like to pursue things that I feel purpose in, that I feel like I am not only gaining something for myself, and it's not, again, it doesn't have to revolve around monetary terms, but I feel like I am expanding as a person, and expanding the lives of others. And so really, I would say the main reason is because I have seen the impact that it has on other people. I've you'd be surprised at the amount of correspondences that I get from people who said, "Hey, PokeNav, I followed some of the tenets that you have put forth. I was able to make X amount of money. I was able to, pay off the last of my student loan, or I was able to put a down payment on a house, or all of these different things." And that's just that brings so much satisfaction to one's life. And in a lot of ways, I think YouTube, although as we've talked about, there's a lot of opportunities to advance oneself financially, it is also a way to build deeper connections. And I found that, again, you and I, we wouldn't be
Yeah,
having this conversation if I hadn't done this. If I
it's
had
true.
never would have pursued this. Same thing for yourself. If you never would have jumped onto YouTube or explored it, we wouldn't be here talking.
Yep.
Um, so I think that is what really brings me back is those connections, and also the fact that I do enjoy it. Yeah, as you said, there's some days where I'm like, man, I my daughter's not going down for a nap. I've got a million other things that are going on. That sometimes take precedence, and I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to get a video recorded? And there'll be sometimes where I'll be like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about this week. you know and so and a lot of the time it just boils down to I just go back into my memory banks, and I sit down and I contemplate, okay, what is it that I would want to see? What kind of information do I think is not currently out there that I think would be valuable? And I just kind of let that guide me as well. But yeah, YouTube is much in the same manner as anything. I as I said, I'm a former financial advisor, so although I enjoyed that the things that I learned being a financial advisor, and all of the knowledge that I garnered from it, um, much like you, it wasn't for me. I didn't have an aspiration of working for a company for 40 years and then reaching retirement and living off of my retirement or what have you. And I made that decision that I wanted to kind of start to pursue more entrepreneurial ventures. I mean, I did a lot of things early on that really put me in a position to where I could do that.
Yep.
I was fortunate in that I received scholarships through athletics to go to school. So I had my college education paid for it. So I didn't have this huge baggage of student loans that I was carrying around.
That's why you got to be good
Having
at
that
sports, then, right?
exactly. So guys, listen, if you don't go down the route of investing or creating a Pokemon business, just make sure that you're really good at sports. That's the core of the story here. But or just get a some type of to be honest with you, the academic scholarships are way better than
Yeah.
the athletic. They give you just enough to survive when you're an athlete. It's like, okay, what can we give them just to keep them on the field? But the academic scholarships are quite good. Or beyond that, actually, and I know we're getting way off topic again. But the other thing that I would recommend, having been through it before, is putting more emphasis on internships, putting more emphasis on apprenticeships, being able to just go out and learn from others. I've got members of my family who have gone through apprenticeships. Both of them are now certified electrical journeymen, and
Nice.
they had their entire apprenticeship paid for. They learned a ton. They are now employable in anywhere in the world. They can go anywhere in the world that they want. They were making a substantial amount of money while they were going through their apprenticeship. They ended with no student debt, and now they're making even more money doing that. So, again, it's way off topic, but in the end, guys, I think what keeps me coming back is that sense of purpose. I feel like I'm doing something good for others, and to be honest, like it makes me happy. Before I started YouTube, I was kind of in a low point where I was just I felt like I was kind of floating. I felt like I didn't have like a strong purpose, something that I was pursuing. As I said, I had done other things, I had invested in other things, which I was proud of, but
Just going through the
um,
motions, kind of.
just kind of going through the motions, just floating. And I think that whenever human beings don't have that, they don't have that guiding light, they don't have that purpose, it's really detrimental to all aspects of your life. And
Yep. Agreed.
so yeah, that's really what it boils down to.
Yep. No, I love what you've said there. And I think that with the main point I really wanted to get out of this question is, getting a little bit insight into like what motivates you, like what's your purpose, why do you do what you do? And I think that the reason I wanted to bring this up is because if you are wanting to start a business of any sort, whether it's Pokemon or not, you need to have a really strong purpose or reason why you're doing it. And a lot of the times, if your reason is to help other people, I have found as well, just like PokeNav has, is the amount of satisfaction and fulfillment is the word that I like to use, that
Mhm.
you have out of serving other people and helping them in some way. I can't even explain it. If they're, and that's why I'm such an advocate of content and of YouTube. I mean, I've been doing YouTube on and off for the last 5 years. There's a reason that I keep coming back, and it's because I feel that like I'm serving people or helping people in some way. And that brings a level of fulfillment to my life that if I didn't have, I don't know. I also have a very strong passion for teaching too.
Mhm.
And I think that if you're wanting to start a Pokemon business, I think it's important that you start with the customer in mind first and the person that you're helping first. If you go into something, and I've learned this from personal experience, I don't know about you, PokeNav, but I've gone into business opportunities where I've gone in with a money focused approach, and I've gone
Mhm.
in with like, oh, if I do this, I put in this hard work, then there's a lot of money that can be made in this business opportunity. Every single time I've done that, it's never panned out, because what
Yeah.
happens is your focus is on something that when you wake up one day and you don't feel like doing it, the money isn't enough to get you to do it. It's not. It's
Mhm.
just not enough. Even though you may think it is, and maybe under dire circumstances, maybe you just have that light under your butt that just gets you going, and it's kind of like a do or die situation. But other than that, like, you wake up, you don't feel good, you don't have that why, you're not going to get up and do anything. So
Mhm.
I just want to iterate on that point, is that if you're really thinking about starting a Pokemon business, you're really thinking about doing it to provide a side income or turn into a full-time income, and turn this passion that you have for Pokemon into something, remember that when you're doing something, do it for other people. Because if you
Mhm.
do it for other people, it's weird how it works, but you will be more successful because you're thinking
Yeah.
about how you can serve your customer better. If you serve your customer better, what happens? You probably make more money.
Yeah.
It's just how it
Yeah.
works.
And there's all kinds of intangible benefits to doing that as well. I've spoken with members of my community who, for instance, there was one gentleman who he was really wanting to build up Pokemon as a side hustle so that his wife could quit her job and focus on taking care of their kids. So again, if you're putting value at the forefront, you're fulfilling the needs and wants of your customers, of your subscribers, of whoever it is, that has downstream benefits as well. And in his case, it was allowing his wife to be home with their children, and not have to have that dual income, and being able to have a parent figure there for their kids. So
That's a
there's
great
a
reason, man.
multitude. Yeah, there's a multitude of different reasons why people pursue things, and
Mhm.
I think that more people should. I think that more
Yep.
people should venture out, and they should take chances and take risks, because what I have found is that I talk. My wife is a physical therapist, and she works at senior living facilities. And the thing, I go and visit her every now and then, and I'll sit down and talk with the residents. And these are people that are at the end of their life. They really are. Some of these people are over 100 years old. Have been through,
Jeez.
many wars, have been through depressions, recessions, everything. And almost 99% of the time, if you ask them what they regret most, it's that they didn't take more chances, that they didn't pursue other things that they wanted to in their life. And I think for myself, Jordan, I know you can attest to this. I just don't want to have those kind of regrets. And I shouldn't call them necessarily regrets, but I don't want to have things that I look back on where I think, what if I had
Yep.
just done it?
Hmm.
If I was sitting here now, 8 months later, and I hadn't jumped on YouTube, knowing now, like, all the people that I've met, the things that I've done, I would have gone, why didn't I just do it? Why didn't I just put the camera down and just hit record and just try and just
Yeah.
try? But I think so many people are scared of that initial step of just trying. um we were talking about it before the interview. Yeah, I've got my own podcast as well. We were both talking about how we both get nervous before our podcast, but once you hit that record button and once you start talking, um because you're thinking to yourself the whole time, you're like, okay, I want to make sure I don't say anything wrong, and I don't, I want to make sure that it's great, and I want to make sure that it's fulfilling for the guest. And but then once you actually get into it, I mean, look at, we've gone through some great topics thus
Hmm.
far. I think we've provided some insight to people out there. And it's like an analogy for life. Sometimes you just got to hit that record button.
It's true, man. It's so true, man. I can't tell you how many times like that has run through my head, and just it's just that it's that initial fear of starting, and
Hmm.
I like that this is completely off, kind of the show notes of today's episode that I had, but like I think there's a reason that we've headed this way, and I'd like to kind of keep talking about this a little bit more because now I completely lost my train of thought of what I was going to say by going on a tangent about what I was saying. Um, so what was the last thing that you said? Do you
Now,
remember?
see, now I forgot my train of
We're just at
thought.
the beginning.
No,
Okay, so
no,
I
I
think,
just
yeah.
basically about, just about pursuing, the things that you want,
Oh,
not having the regrets. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, just
Pushing
hammering on that,
record.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just starting
push
and
and
pushing
record.
record. Yeah. So, I think that this is something that I feel very passionately about as well, is that, I know this is like that thing that went around, I don't know how many years ago now. But people would say YOLO all the time. You only live
Yeah.
once, right? And it kind of became
Hmm.
cringe after that point. So just the fact that I said YOLO in 2021, it's probably pretty cringe. But I have a point here. I have a point here. Like the whole concept of like you only live once, and thinking, you don't want to look back on your life and ask those what if questions, and I think that for me, it took me a long time to break through the, like, let me back up just for a second. When we're raised in families, we're conditioned to think and believe certain things about our lives and about the way we view the world. And when we grow up in those homes, nothing against our parents, nothing against those around us, but we condition ourselves to think and understand the world in a certain way. And more often than not, we grow up not really being as open to the concept of working for ourselves or pursuing our passion, our dreams. A lot of the times when we get older as kids, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I had dreams of becoming a professional race car driver, and I had
Mm-hmm.
dreams of becoming a pro tennis player and lots of these things, right? We have these dreams as kids, and it's kind of like supported when you're kids, but as you grow up and you become more of an adult, a teenager, it's like you still have those dreams that you had as a kid, but people start to suppress those ideas because that's not how normal life goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
We go to school, then once we graduate high school, we go off and go to college, we get a degree, we work, we get married, we have a family, and we retire. Like, that is very generally how at least life in the United States is viewed,
Mm-hmm.
as that's how you live your life. And I have tried, it took me a while to break out of the shell, because once you start to try and push on that shell and that wall, you will go and talk to someone else about how excited you are about, hey, I remember back when, I was in college and I was like, man, I really want to just go and start like an online business. I'll be able to like travel around the world and like go see places, but still run my business and still do my work. And when I was telling these people, even my close friends, man, like my close friends, I'd be so excited about these ideas. I would share them with them and they'd be like, dude, like, that's stupid. Like, you don't need to do that. Like, I wouldn't worry. I just stick to school, get your degree so that you have a more secure job. And I'd hear things like
Mm-hmm.
that and I'd just be like, man, like, I had this dream and they just crushed it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they just
Yeah.
took it in their hands and crushed it in my face. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times that happened. It was this constant, like, going and learning online and listening to people say, hey, you can do this. And then going and talking to people that I know and them crushing my dreams again. And it was this constant back and forth and mental struggle in my head until I finally broke through and I started taking action on some of my ideas. Like, for example, make this more like practical for what we're talking about right now, going and starting a Pokemon business and just taking that first step, going and buying a $20 lot of bulk to then start selling singles, right? Just do
Mm-hmm.
it. Once you start seeing success, you sell your first card, your second card, your third card, your fourth card. What happens? You build confidence around what you're
Yep.
doing. And what starts to happen then is you build your own confidence in what you're doing, and you don't need to rely on other people to tell you what to do. You don't rely on other people for their acceptance, right? The things that they say, their opinions,
Mm-hmm.
don't matter as much to you the more and more that you build up your own confidence in yourself. So I don't know if I have a main point here, but I think what I was coming back to was I strongly believe that anyone out there who's listening right now who has a dream, whether it's Pokemon or not, whether you just Pokemon's more of a casual thing and you just wanted to listen to a podcast about Pokemon business, like, you can make whatever you want happen in your life. And it's up to you to decide whether you're going to put in the effort or not. But you have to really try your best to tune out the naysayers, tune out the people who
Mm-hmm.
may say, like, no, you shouldn't do that, or you should just stay here, be safe. And I think that we're robbing ourselves of opportunities if we don't take that jump and at least try, at least try. So I've always been an advocate when people tell me, hey, I've always thought about doing this thing. I'm like, you go and do that. Like, you're a great person. You're great at talking. You're great with this. I always try and compliment people and then just give them some hope. That's what I try and
Mm-hmm.
spread to people that I meet every day. So anyway,
Yeah.
lots of thoughts there.
Well, you said it yourself. When you were a child, I see it because I have children of my own, and a child's mind is like, it's just like it's like a flower, you know what I mean? It opens and it expands, and there's no kind of barrier to it. You know, it's just open to all things. And so, you know, when you were saying you wanted to be a professional race car driver, that is just like I feel like that is your inner dharma. That is your inner dharma speaking, that you just truly want to pursue what it is that is most enjoyable to you, what is satisfactory to you, what gives you purpose. And as a child, they don't have that conditioning yet. And again, as you said, you know, as parents, you're just doing your best. You know, our parents, they saw what worked for them, maybe, or what their parents did, and there was different circumstances. You know, they lived through different times, and so circumstances were different, and they want their kids to have a better life than what they had, and so they try to steer them in the direction that they think would get them there. But as you said, very often there are these constraints placed. One of my favorite quotes of all time is by one of my favorite poets, William Blake, and it says, "If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is, infinite." And I read that when I was, maybe a freshman in high school, and it really resonated with me in that, you know, we have a tendency to see things in like a box. You know, we don't see all these things on our periphery that are existing, and that all of these potentialities. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people, is they fall into that sense of security. They fall into that sense of being comfortable. And when they see someone else venture outside of that, I think on one hand they are envious, and on the other hand they are also just trying to rein you in, say no, like just go down the safe path.
Yeah.
So you know,
the
I
safe
think
path. Yeah, that's it's the
exactly.
safe route. Yeah.
It is. It's the safe route, and I'm not sitting here advocating that, you know, anyone go out and quit their job or anything like
Don't
that.
do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. I obviously not. But what I'm saying is, you know, believe in yourself. Believe in what it is that you want to accomplish, and just take the initial steps. You know, just take the initial steps to start pursuing that. Sometimes, you know, that is the biggest hurdle, is just starting, and really diving into it. As you said, once you sell that first card, even if you make 50 cents on it, you go,
Yeah.
wow, like this. I remember I think that it was a first transaction that I ever made with Pokemon. And I think I made like 15 bucks on it, something like that. I was just like, wow, you know, that it was just, it wasn't the money. It was that I saw it through. I didn't know anything about it. And I learned, and I acquired knowledge. And then I was finally able to bring that to fruition. And like I said, it's, you know, in the beginning, it's not money. It's actually being able to pursue a goal and see that come to fruition. And it gives you such a sense of pride when you do something like that, that I think, at least for myself, I can't speak for everyone, but when you do pursue something for yourself, and it's something that you've done, it's not because of a company or somebody else. You put yourself out there, you pursued it, and when you do see it finally come to completion, it's just there's just nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. And I think Pokemon can offer that. I really do. I think that we've been discussing here various opportunities, various ways to approach this. I think people probably have a good impression now that they can start at various different levels. But you just have to take that first step. I sat and contemplated about YouTube for months and months and months, and I was just like planning and okay, what am I going to do? And just this, and then finally I was just like, you know what? I said, okay, today is the day. I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to record and I'm going to talk about this set that nobody thinks is going to do anything. And that was XY Evolutions. And now it's over at $1,000 a booster box. So there you go. All the naysayers out there.
Dude, I remember you getting so much crap about that. I remember.
Yeah.
It was your very first video. I actually went back and looked at your channel recently too. I was like, that's the first video he made. Wow, he was really adamant about that XY Evolution set.
Yeah, no, I had loved Evolutions, and in some ways I was kind of biased because it came out right around the time that I got back into Pokemon.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, I had always watched the anime for one reason or another. I always enjoyed it, especially like the early anime, like the first couple seasons. So I was still into Pokemon. I still loved watching the show and I watched it periodically. But I was completely estranged from the TCG. I hadn't touched my cards in years. In fact, they were sitting in my closet of my old bedroom at my parents' house when and again, that's really where I started. I went back home. I grabbed my binders of cards. They had sat in there for 16 years or more. And then I just started taking them out. And back then it was like, you could send a card into PSA. You could send a bulk submission into PSA.
Don't say it.
It was like 30 days, man. Like it was like 30 days to get them back to the house. And it was just like, yeah, but it was tedious. That's the thing, is a lot of people, we were talking about middleman and I think the necessity of that, because it's a tedious process when you're going through PSA directly to fill out the sheet, to go through that process of getting your card submitted. It's tedious. And, middlemen offer to alleviate a lot of that burden for people. They basically take care of that whole middle section. I advocate all the time on my channel, Graded Gem, because I found that they've been a great service. I found that they're actually quite a bit cheaper than, going through PSA directly, and they just handle everything. All I have to do, in fact, I've got a whole submission right here.
Oh, okay.
That I'm going to be sending in here soon. And all I have to do is I basically write my name on their like cover sheet, send that across town, which I doubt that you're listening to this, but James, or otherwise known as Z from Z&G Emporium, if you would just go ahead and respond to my emails, because I would really like to just drive across town to drop my cards off rather than mailing them. He lives over in, or at least he receives his mail over in Tempe, which is like 15 minutes from me. Yeah. So Z, if you're listening to this, your boy PokeNav, I had to just drive across town.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, man, like I think bring it back to just kind of what we were discussing, and just taking that initial first step. And I know that everyone who's listening right now, we can't cover everything in one episode. It's just not possible. So like if there's questions that you still have, like please leave them down below in the comments. Be happy to get back to them. But if there's other things that you need to learn, like go out there and start searching for these things, because there's resources out there that will help you answer a lot of these questions that you have, and maybe able to start taking that first step. Because even taking one of those first steps is taking the initiative and going and learning that piece of information that you may need to know in order to actually sell your first card or whatever it may be. So you just really just got to take that initiative, even though you may be feeling a bit anxious to start. You're waiting. Okay. One thing just came across my mind. There will never be a perfect time to start. Just do it now. There will never be a perfect time. If you're planning on like, oh yeah, 1st of February, I'm going to start then because this is why, and this, just start today. Just don't do it, because you're going to get to that day and then postpone it to another perfect day. Just don't do it. Just start. I don't know how many times that you've told yourself that too, but man, just waiting for the perfect day to start.
Well, and it also goes for, whether, if you're going to be investing or creating a business around Pokemon, there's never a perfect time for that either. The best time to do it is now.
Yep.
That's what we would always tell people with in the investing world is the best time to invest is now,
Mm-hmm.
because the market's going to do what it's going to do. You just adjust accordingly. You learn along the way, and you adapt.
Yep.
You become malleable.
Yep. Best time to start a business was when you were young, best time to start a business when you were single. The second best time to start a business is when you're married. The third best time to start a business is when you have kids. So wherever you are, it's the best time.
But I checked all of those off, guys. So check them all off, and I got another one on the way. So yeah,
Oh
old
man, that's
PokeNav.
exciting, dude.
I say that old. I emphasize that old PokeNav. Still doing it. And there's a
All
lot of
right.
people out there
Yep.
that do it as well. Even we were talking about PokeRev. The guy's got a wife, and I think he's got 2
Yeah.
kids, and he's very successful. He's very successful. And
Yeah.
I have to say, I respect the guy a ton for what he did recently, in that he discontinued the memberships on his channel because he
Mhm.
recognized. So just as much as, so let me finish with
Yeah, yeah.
in case nobody's
Go ahead.
familiar with it, but he discontinued his memberships on his channel because he found that it was just taking up so much of his time. He was spending, they were opening up like 10,000 packs. They were doing that over a course of like 4 or 5 days. Plus, it would take him 3 or 4 days, 8 hours a day to pack up the shipping, to get all those products together, to get them sent out. And he finally came to the conclusion that it was taking so much time away from his family that it just wasn't worth it. It was affecting his health. So much in the same manner that we're urging you, to start your business, never lose sight of the things that are truly important in your life. I never put YouTube, or I never put Pokemon or anything like that above the things that are most important to me, and that is my family and my health. And if either of those two are ever compromised, I will always choose my family and my health over anything else. So, for those out there that maybe have already gotten into a business, have already started that, have been doing the investing, and maybe you're in a point of maybe burnout, or you're just, working yourself to the bone, step back and really think and contemplate on the things that really matter to you, and understand where your priorities lie, because I think that's also something that you have to continually remind yourself and be cognizant of.
No, I 100% agree with that. I appreciate you sharing that, because I've personally let that get away from me at times. Pursuing different businesses over the last 5 years is you get very caught up, and you can get very, I remember there was a time where, I mean, I was up early in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock, and I'd be working till 9 or 10 at night, sometimes 11, and not really having a lot of time with my wife. And
Mm-hmm.
there was, at least in our relationship, there's a very noticeable difference of like, when the more time we spend together, the better we get along. And so I think that making those corrections when they happen are extremely important, because at the end of the day, like, your family is what is most important. And so there has been times where I know what it's like to work yourself like a horse, and get things done, and that's great. But like, at the end of the day, like, if you aren't aware of how it's affecting other aspects of your life, then it kind of becomes like toxic. You know what I mean? You've got to have
Oh, for
some
sure.
form of balance in things. I think there's definitely a time to grind, maybe for a period of
Mm-hmm.
time, but you don't want to be doing that all the time. I know Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this all the time. I don't 100% agree with him eye to eye on this, but like, he's always talking about hustling and grinding 24/7. I think that is something you can do when you're single, right? Because you don't have anyone else that you're um, responsible for, and that you are looking out for. But I
Mm-hmm.
think you just have to remember that, you know, you're only going to realize what you had and when it's gone. Like if you end up going down that road and working yourself too hard, and then you either break up with a girlfriend or a spouse. Obviously, that's worst case scenario. I'm going down a rabbit hole here a little bit, but the point is, is that you want to have the balance in all things, and I've been on both sides of that. And you're a lot happier when you have a good family life, and it helps you, I think, to be more productive in other areas of your life when you know that you're close with the people that you love.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm lucky too. My wife is very supportive, and I wouldn't, she puts up with a lot with me as well. I have a lot of, I've had a lot of fanciful ideas of things, over the years and different endeavors, and she's always been very, very supportive. So, and we're actually pursuing something right now together, a business endeavor together. So that's been fun as well, being able to do that together.
That's great, man. Yeah, I think one thing that my wife and I have started doing together is I've told you that we do those live streams where we break cards and open packs together. And so she's been involved in a lot of those over the last couple of months because it's something that we really enjoy doing together, and it's a blast. So we kind of do those live pack openings together. So that's a good time we get to spend together. So yeah, it really is the best of both worlds if you can kind of pursue a business or something that you enjoy with someone that you love. It's like the best combination. So
definitely.
Cool. So I have, right before we finish here, I have I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but I'm calling it a speed round. I'm going to hit you with 10 questions, 10 really quick questions that you're going to have to answer. So are you ready for them?
Is this like one sentence or less, or is it like am I on the clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's throw like a minute or two on the clock. I don't know how much time it will take, but they shouldn't be long answers, I don't think. So.
Okay.
All right. Question 1: what is your favorite place to eat out with the wife?
Probably pizza. We not very often, but when we do, it's called Pizzeria Bianco. It is actually, ironically enough, voted the #1 pizza place in the entire United States.
Okay, no need to brag.
Yeah. Well, I found it surprising too, because here in Phoenix, Arizona, I mean, we're known for our Mexican food, but we're not. I didn't think we were known for our pizza. But the chef Chris Bianco is actually from Italy, and he's got two restaurants here. One's in downtown Phoenix, the other's in Scottsdale. And it's fantastic.
It's probably amazing. I've had some I know it's meant to be a speed round, but when I was
all right, here is part 2, the food podcast.
When I lived in Vegas for 2 years, we had some authentic Italian chef that made these pizzas, and dude, oh my gosh, they're amazing. They're so different too. That they're the same, but they're different. It's hard to explain, but yeah.
The other one, if it's not Pizzeria Bianco, my wife and I are both of German ancestry. So the last couple years, we've been to Germany and Austria, and there's a place over in Phoenix as well called Edelweiss Beer Garden, and it's really, really good, authentic German food. But we have yet to get as good of apple strudel that we get over in Germany. So we're on the lookout for that. So if there's somewhere in Maine, we may just have to visit just for that.
Oh, dude, you got to come up to Maine to have some of that Maine lobster.
Oh, dude. I actually, so here's a little fun fact about PokeNav. I was talking about travel. So I've been to all 50 states. I've been through all 50 states.
Wow.
So, Maine, I'm trying to remember. I was like a kid. We did a motorhome trip.
Nice.
And we were up in Maine, and that's the thing that I remember most of all. So when we were in the Northeast, the big thing that I remember was we were in Virginia Beach, and it was called she crab soup. I don't know if that rings a bell to you at all. She
No.
crab soup. And then you go up the coast, and then the lobster rolls once we got into like
Yeah.
New England. And then like in Maine, that's what I remember as well, is like I think it was rock lobsters that you guys have up there
I
that
think
are
so, yeah.
kind of the most common. But
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's
you
great.
can't beat that. Can't beat that. We don't get a whole lot of seafood here in Arizona. I mean,
Yeah,
we've got our our red lobsters. So,
yeah.
but
That's great.
until California breaks off into the ocean, I don't see us having fresh seafood anytime soon.
All right. Second question.
Wow, it was like 5 minutes. This is gonna be
All
a
right.
long one.
What was your number one business decision you feel that has impacted your life the most? Brief.
Oh man.
Like, was it a certain decision that kind of like, yeah.
Biggest business decision. It was probably leaving the corporate world,
Yeah.
honestly. Because one, I think that it afforded me more time to actually, be able to pursue these other endeavors. And I know it's not necessarily a business decision, but in some ways it was, because it was
Mhm.
it was in order to pursue other businesses.
Right. Yep. No, totally understand. Number 3, what is the first word you think of when you hear Australia?
Kangaroos.
Kangaroos. Okay.
That's
Nice.
that's the first thing that came to my mind. So I'm going to go on a tangent again. Here we go. So last year, my wife and I, we were at Oktoberfest, and we really didn't run into people from that many places. It was mainly just Germany and Europe and places like that.
Yep.
And we were headed back to our hotel, and we got some food, and we sat down and we were eating away. And this couple came and sat beside us, and we got to talking to them. And immediately, obviously, we picked up on the accent.
Yeah.
But they were from Australia, and they had actually sailed all the way. I think they started in Croatia and sailed all the way up the coast, and then got off in Slovenia, I believe, and then went up to Oktoberfest. So that was
Nice.
like my first introduction to the Aussies.
That's great. All right.
Yeah,
Question 4.
yeah. Nice people.
That's good. I'm glad we're nice. Hopefully you think I'm a nice person too.
For the most part. Oh yeah. You've been estranged from Australia for a little while, though.
Yeah, I have.
So,
I'm pretty Americanized.
Well, not only that, you're Mainetized, I guess you could say.
That's true.
Those people up there are nice. Small town,
Yeah.
like a lower populations, and
Yep.
a lot of nice people up there.
Yeah, it's very rural.
Vermont and those areas, good people.
Question 4. What is your favorite business book?
I really like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think that's a great one. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon
that's
Hill.
a great one. Yep.
It's not a business book, but I think that it has a lot of applications in business, in just being fastidious and being persistent. But it's just called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. So it's basically just his, kind of his, what do you call it? Not kind of autobiography, but it's more or less just the life lessons that he learned. There's a mosquito in here. His life lessons that he had learned, throughout his life, and kind of applying like the Stoic philosophy. And there's a guy by the name of Ryan Holiday who has actually written more business related books utilizing like Stoic philosophies. Yeah, I have one of his books. It's oh gosh, I can't remember the name. It's one of his newer ones. But yeah, I would recommend that as well. checking out any of those books, because I think they're very applicable, especially in this time of just being able to persist through hard times. I think that is a very it's a very scarce asset nowadays, of people that are willing to overcome things. I think we kind of live in a very sheltered, very too comfortable of a society, and I think it's made many people very, very, very soft. So I think that down to the ground level here. I guess I'm doing it again. PokeNav's just putting a damp on the mood.
Oh, is the connection okay? I can't see you anymore.
Oh, I lost
there
you, Jordan.
There you go. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're frozen. No.
I am?
Yeah, you're laggy. Yeah.
How about now?
You're still frozen.
Nice. Can we come back, please? I can see you fine.
You want to? Well, I mean, it might be fine on your end. I don't know what the end product will come out like. As long as I can hear you, that's all that matters.
Am I frozen?
You're not frozen, but you're like real laggy. Like your movements are like
jagged. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's starting to get. I think it's starting to get a little better now.
Yeah, it's getting better for you too.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it's back to normal now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's keep going then.
Back to normal.
All right. Question 5. What Pokemon kind of freaks you out? One word. One Pokemon. That's all. You can only answer one word.
Klefki.
Klefki? Dude.
I don't like the inanimate object type of Pokemon, like the Klefkis, the clay dolls, the just like household object Pokemon. Those just kind of freak me out.
I honestly don't even know what that Pokemon looks like, so I'm literally looking it up right now because I've never heard of that. It's just a bunch of keys.
It's just a bunch of keys, or Sinistea. The
teacup.
Like the poltergeist teacup.
Yeah. Okay.
They're just weird.
Yeah, they are. Okay. All right. Question 6. Over the years, what is the number one attribute or characteristic you feel has contributed to your success as an entrepreneur?
I think it boils down to just being persistent. Being able to overcome obstacles. Mm-hmm. I think that it's, again, I attribute a lot of this to being an athlete for so many years. And, when you're in a situation, whether it's on the field or wherever, you have to be able to adapt. Like mm-hmm. you're going to get rolled over if you don't. And if you want to be successful in athletics, you've got to, because you go through highs and lows. On one day you're the best, and then there's always going to be somebody that comes along that's better, that you have mm-hmm. to then strive to try to overcome. Or maybe a team gets the best of you one week, and then you meet them again in the playoffs or something like that, and you have another opportunity to try to overcome that. And then it's also a day-to-day battle of overcoming things, of overcoming your inner demons, and just getting better. So I think it was ingrained into me from a young age, and it's just really followed through into pretty much all aspects of my life.
That's great. Yeah.
My wife would call that stubbornness, which I can be very stubborn too.
Gotcha. Number 8, which I'm just going to ask it. What's your dream sports car?
Gosh, I'm not the guy to ask this.
You don't
I
like
still
cars?
drive the same vehicle. I drive the same vehicle. So when I was a senior in high school, I bought a 2002 Toyota Tacoma, and I still drive it to this day. I still drive it to this day. I am not the type of person that is really into vehicles. I'm more of like the utility type of person. So I think that if my dream would be if Tesla came out with like a electric pickup truck,
Cybertruck.
I think that would be awesome. Yeah, they're so ugly. They're so terrible. But if it had like, nice aesthetics to it, it looked like a typical, a regular truck, which that Cybertruck, I think it gets like something crazy, like it's got like 800 horsepower or something like that. It's insane. So yeah, I guess that would be like my dream vehicle because, you'd have an electric truck. I could take that onto like all the hiking trails and not, worry about running out of gas somewhere. I guess you could worry about running out of, the electric power, the battery going dead. But yeah, I guess that would be it.
Okay. All right. Number 9, what is the longest hike you've done and the highest elevation?
Ooh, that's a really good question. That would be, trying to think. Yeah, it's Mount Baldy here in Arizona, because I was thinking I did another one in Colorado, but I don't think it was quite as high. Or not Mount Baldy, I'm sorry, is Mount Humphreys, which is actually in Flagstaff. And that one is, I believe it sits at about 12,400 or so.
Okay. Yep.
So pretty good. My goal is to hike the tallest point in the contiguous United States, which is Mount McKinley, I believe, which is in California. So it's I believe that one is at about 14,000, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the highest point in North America is Mount Denali, which is in is it in I think, yeah, it's in Canada. But yeah, it's in Canada. Or is it in Alaska? See, now you're really testing. But I know it's Mount Denali, and you stumped PokeNav on his actual navigation.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's Mount Denali, which is like something crazy. I think it's like 17,000 feet.
Jeez, man, that's crazy. Okay, yeah. All right. So, question 10, last one here is: what's the biggest Pokemon purchase that you've ever made?
By value or like resale value or?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Resale value.
Yeah.
So people are going to be pretty underwhelmed by this, but I've always been more about more like consistency than like really big purchases. So it was actually I acquired it was either late 2016 or early 2017. I don't quite remember, but it was a base set unlimited booster box. Got that for I think it was just under 1,000.
Oh, that kills.
Yeah. Well, what's even worse about it is I sold that same booster box right around the Hidden Fates craze, because I thought, oh, this is it, man. This is the top of the top, and I sold it for it was just under 8,000.
Okay, so, that's a good return.
So, yeah, I mean, a year over year return on something like that. I wish I had, a more fanciful tale of like, oh yeah, I bought, I got this first edition base, or I got a first edition Neo Genesis or something like that.
Right.
But what a lot of people don't realize is that even back then, it was hard to find products. And it still is, and now it's not so much that it's so hard to find. It's just that they're so expensive. It's so expensive. So it's kind of been a trade-off where now they're more out in the open and they're more accessible, but they're just so expensive that most people can't afford them. Whereas back then it was like, they were definitely less expensive, but they were much harder to find because you just didn't have the same amount of resources. So yeah, that was as far as like resale value, that was the biggest one. But as far as like monthly, if we're looking at like monthly, I would say the biggest month that I ever had, I did about just under 20,000 in 1 month.
Nice.
So that was, I didn't see a whole lot of that because where that went, that actually went, that went to a down payment on a rental property actually.
Nice. So, that's good.
So yeah, I didn't see most of that, but now, again, it's diversifying one's assets. So, I could have just taken a couple nice vacations with that or something, but it afforded me another opportunity. And so that's kind of the way I look at a lot of things, is like, taking one opportunity and, using that to capitalize on another. Right.
Yep, definitely. Well, that is our speed round over. That is 10 questions that we had. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Really, really loved having PokeNav on the podcast. Again, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to link all of your YouTube channel, Instagram, all that down below in the description. Make sure you guys go and check him out. If you do not know who he is, which I'm sure most of you should know who he is, but if you don't, he's definitely got some great content over there about investing. And hopefully you guys have enjoyed. We'd love to hear some feedback on what you guys thought of this episode. We really want to make it something that is focused around kind of the Pokemon business aspect. Let us know what you liked about this and maybe some things that maybe you didn't like. We're just looking for feedback. And yeah, so guys, if you have enjoyed, please leave a like on the video, leave a comment below if you have any additional questions. But again, PokeNav, thank you so much for coming on, man. Really appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. That was a lot of fun. Fun.
It definitely was.
Whenever you request.
Appreciate it. Sounds good, man. I'm sure we could talk for hours and hours more. But yeah, guys, thanks so much. This is the Pokemon Profit Podcast, and this is PokeFuel. And remember, guys, nothing is impossible. We'll see you next time.